Na, 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 na.
Faith in Pieces, welcome!
Totally.
Hi, friends, and welcome back to a new episode of Faith in Pieces, a podcast from Mosaic United Methodist Church. Like we said last week, we concluded our Asking for a Friend sermon series a couple of weeks ago, but we're going to continue with our Asking for a Friend season of this podcast. And I have a very special guest with us here today. Today we have Bryce Erwin. And so on this episode, we're going to continue to ask questions for a friend. So I'll have some questions for Bryce. Bryce has some questions for me. But before we get started, for those of you who may not know Bryce, how about you go ahead and introduce yourself for us?
Hi, I'm Bryce Erwin. I go to Willowwood. My favorite color is orange.
Orange.
And I have Shuler socks.
And orange Crocs. So we get to see both of these. Would you like to display? Yes. So one day I'm going to get Bryce socks, but Bryce has Shuler socks and Bryce wears them all the time. And I think they're a pretty hot item. So anyways, yeah. So Bryce, I know that you have a couple questions for me and are asking for a friend season. So fire away. I don't know what they are. Let's get it.
Okay. Does God really forgive everything we've done? Because I shot my brother in the eye with a Nerf gun. Would he forgive that?
Okay. So there's two questions of does God forgive everything we've done? And then how are we called to forgive other people? So let's start with the first piece of that. Does God really forgive everything we've done? If we're going to answer that question, either yes or no, the answer is 100% yes. And so we see that throughout the course of Scripture, and that's kind of where the Bible always leads us, is that God does forgive us. From the very beginning of the story of creation all the way through Revelation, as we talk about a lot, the arc of Scripture, God is continuing to pursue after us, and we believe that through the life and the death and the resurrection of Jesus Christ, we have access to be forgiven for the sins and the mistakes that we do make. And there is no mistake or there is no accident that is too big that God won't forgive. And so the way that we ask for forgiveness is by going to God in prayer and confessing the ways in which we've fallen short. So if you're asking God for forgiveness for shooting Braden in the eye with a Nerf gun, that would start with going to God and say, God, I recognize that shooting Braden in the eye with a Nerf gun, this just feels very funny to say out loud, but shooting Braden in the eye with a Nerf gun is something that I should not have done, and I recognize that, and so I ask for your forgiveness. And we believe that in the process of prayer, God hears that and God does forgive us. Now, one thing really specifically I think that we have to point out is that, yes, God does forgive whenever we come up short, but there is this expectation from God that we will learn from that mistake and try to avoid it in the future. So there's this expectation that we grow in our forgiveness. So that's the first answer. The second part of that is, how are we called to forgive others? That's where I think it gets a little bit harder, right? It can be something like shooting your brother in the eye with a Nerf gun, but it can be moments in life where someone betrays our trust or almost stabs us in the back or does something that we never could have imagined, and it hurts us more than we could possibly ever put into words. And we are called as people of God who forgives all of us to forgive other people too. But I think what we have to be really careful of is that, yes, we are called to forgive people, but if there are these continued patterns of hurt where someone continues to hurt us over and over again, sometimes we have to draw boundaries of saying, I can't be in relationship with you right now in the way in which I used to because of the damage that you're doing to me. We have to also think about our own mental and our own spiritual health within that. So we are called to forgive, and we're called to forgive over and over and over again as people of God. But there are times I still think in life where we have to draw those boundaries and be really careful that we're not hurt and that we don't continue to hurt ourselves in that process. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Do you have any follow-up questions?
No, but I'm going on to the second question.
Let's go.
If Jesus was around during the age of social media, what do you think he'd say about it?
Oh, man. I think with social media there are good purposes for social media, right? There are friends, at least for me, that I went to high school with and friends I went to college with that I don't get to see every day and that I don't have the opportunity to talk to every day. But through social media, I can stay connected with them. I can see what's going on in their families, what's going on at their jobs, how they're doing. can send messages to them and check in on them. I think social media at times can be really helpful to stay engaged with what's going on in the world, like just by going through our feeds and checking in. But I think Jesus would look at social media and say that social media can be a good tool to stay connected in community, but it can also be a really bad tool in other ways too. Like social media, for me, I've seen people say other things to people that they've never met before on social media that they would never dare say in person, like insult people or name calling or just being incredibly rude to them on social media in a way that they wouldn't be in person. And so I think it's allowed us to be the worst versions of ourselves. And I don't think Jesus would dig that at all. I also think with social media, like we get to pick and choose who we follow and who we friend, right? And by doing that, we create feeds that sometimes can act as like an echo chamber for what we already think. And I'm very guilty of that. Like I had to get off of a certain social media because I recognized I have created a feed that just reinforces what I want to see rather than challenges me to think differently about the world around me. So I think Jesus would at first glance like appreciate social media and how it allows us to stay connected in a way that maybe we've never been before. But I think Jesus would also want us to have some guardrails on how we use social media because it can make us the worst versions of ourselves if we're not really careful. Are you on social media?
Not that much.
Okay. I think that's good. Like, I think especially as you grow, it's a little bit easier to be on social media, but especially for I get worried a lot about people who are like middle schoolers like yourself or high schoolers who are on social media, and it can really change the way in which you develop and grow. So that's a worry that I have. And I think it's a worry that Jesus would have too. But I mean, even for adults, there are times in my life where I've had to say, I am done with social media for a couple of months. I need to cleanse myself from this toxic place. And then you get back on and you can kind of fall back into the normalness of okay, this is what it can be used for good. But you just have to be really careful. Yeah.
Okay.
Is it time for me to ask you some questions?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the questions I have for you, Bryce, what is it like to be a middle schooler in 2025? Because I don't know if you know this, it's been a long time since I've been in middle school. It's been, I'm not even going to say, but it's been a really long time. So what is it like being a middle schooler today? What do you experience? What do you go through?
There's everyone has phones. So and then the TikTok trends were doing stuff to the school property, sticking lead into Chromebooks to get them to start smoking.
That's a trend?
It was a trend.
Oh my gosh.
That people did.
That's awful.
Mm-hmm.
This is not funny. Sorry, I don't know why I'm laughing. That's just, I can't, that's so specific of a trend to have of lead in Chromebooks.
I don't know. And then the pressure to succeed in school.
Yeah.
And then all the extracurricular activities that people do.
Yeah.
What year were you in school or middle school again?
I have to think back on this. Okay, so I was born in a certain year. How old are you when you started middle school? Are you 11 or 12? How old are you when you started? Do you remember?
I think 6th grade. It was 12.
12? Okay, so if you're 12, I started middle school in 2004.
That's before I was even born.
Thank you for pointing that out, Bryce. I love that we're starting our day with this. Thank you for that. No, I think in 2004, what was popular? Pirates of the Caribbean had just come out.
Mm-hmm.
What a great... Those movies raised me, right? I was in 6th grade when the first one came out, and then I saw the other garbage ones that came out after. What else was popular? No, that was before. Michael Phelps was when I was in high school. I was trying to think of sports things, of course. 2004 was the year that the Red Sox beat the Yankees in the ALCS and won their first World Series. But yeah, no, for me, as I thought about that question, I thought about what was middle school like for me. And I think in talking with our students and in talking with you, the pressure to succeed was there, but I think your generation, it's even more inflicted upon you, right? Because there's so many different things that middle schoolers and high schoolers feel like they need to be engaged with in order to succeed. Because I think like, I don't know if this is your experience, but it's always like, what is the next step? Like for middle school, like what's the next step? Okay, it's high school. How am I going to set myself up to succeed in high school? And then in high school, it's, okay, well, college or my first job. Like, how am I setting myself up well? Because there's so much like resourcing that you have that I did not have, right? And I think the spotlight is on you a little bit more too. So I want to ask you, like, the pressure to succeed, where do you feel that the most? Do you feel it like with your grades? Do you feel it with your extracurriculars? Is it a mix of both? Like, where do you feel that pressure the most?
I feel like more with like grades, just trying to get like above 95s and 90s.
Yeah. Above 95s.
Yeah.
Man, you're a smart kid. That was not I think for me, mine was like an 85. Like if I got like above like a B, like I felt really good about myself. Yeah. So what has it been like being a middle schooler? Like, I know we talked about social media, and you talked about TikTok trends.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how have you seen that affect you? Like, how have you experienced like the pressures of social media? Like, what is that like for you as a middle schooler?
It's like, it's kind of just like seeing everybody around you like do like bad choices, and even though like you want to fit in, you gotta just know not to do some of the bad choices that TikTok is like having people do.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, I think like TikTok, like there are trends that can be fun, right? Like the dance trends videos, like I've done those before. They're not out there. You can't find them. So don't even try. But like the lead book thing, right? Or the lead book. I don't even call it. It's lead in a Chromebook. But you have to, I think it's good that you're able to recognize like there are some things that are on social media that can be fun, and there are other things that like, okay, I definitely don't need to be doing that. I cannot believe that is a trend. That's bonkers. I'm going to look this up afterwards. But I think it's just the pressures that you all face, and just like the challenges that you all face are so different from whatever challenges that I faced, or, you know, even people who went to middle school long before 2004 went through. So it's just a different time to grow up for sure. All right. So I think it's really important as a pastor and just as church members that we always think about the younger generation that's at our churches and what they want church to look like, or what they hope church will look like as they continue to grow up and as they become adults. So how would you like to see the church? And when I say the church, I mean like not Mosaic specifically. Like, don't give me like your master plan for how Mosaic is going to change under your leadership. But like, how would you like to see the church at large grow or change as you get older?
I kind of just want to see like everyone involved in serving in a community, and seeing like the older folks and the younger people start to like connect and see them like get along, like having people volunteer for like children's stuff.
Yeah.
And seeing like the younger generation like helping with like activities that are at the church.
Yeah.
Like volunteering.
Yeah. I think that the answer you just gave, in part, like when I read studies about this new generation, especially when it comes to church, because I read these a lot, that generation voices over and over again that they don't want church to be a place where you come to be entertained, but they want to go to a church that is clearly making a change in the community, or like having boots on the ground to affect a movement. Like, that's voiced over and over again. Is that something that, like, when you talk about getting involved, is that what you're talking? I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I'm just trying to connect the two things. Is that what you mean by getting involved?
Yeah.
Yeah. You talked about like mentorship opportunities, like older generations getting with younger generations. How have you seen that be beneficial to you? And what do you think the benefits of that can be for somebody who is your age? Like, in being mentored by somebody older?
The benefits of it is like you like get experience from somebody who's lived longer to you that can help you like go through your life.
Yeah.
As you get older.
Yeah, because I mean, I think there's wisdom that the older generations have that you and even myself don't have. Like, I love to get wisdom from people who have been in church for years and years, because they have seen church change in a way that I can read about, but I can't fully understand. And then I think the flip side of that too is your opinions about what church can be. That may be something that's new for older generations too, right? And so I think it's not just the older generation sharing wisdom with the younger generation, but it's the younger generation speaking like new words or new concepts or new exciting ideas about what church can be. And when those two things come together, when you have the wisdom of the older church members with the new, fresh ideas and expressions of the younger generation, when you combine those two things, something really, really cool and neat can happen, right? So, yeah. Any other hopes for the church as you get older?
What dreams do you have for us teenagers at the church now and in the future?
Ooh, what dreams do I have? I think it starts first with what you already mentioned. It's just like being active and finding ways to get involved. But I think that can't happen until, and I think this is already starting to happen, but I think we can continue to grow in this. Like reminding our students that they are wanted here and that their ideas matter and are important, and not just telling them that, but showing them that those ideas matter, right? So like the ways that we can do that are like having younger people like active in helping us lead worship. Our mission team that meets every month, last year we decided to add 2 students to that group. And I think that has been tremendous for us, and having Ashlyn and Leo be on that team and at times voice like, here's what we're experiencing and here's some ideas that we have. And not just giving them room to speak in those avenues, but listening to them and following up on it. Even when like the ideas for us may be like, well, we've never tried that before, and that feels a little scary or a little bit different. Let's try it and see what happens, right? So I think I would love to see younger people involved in church always, but I don't think that can happen in good faith until we as church leaders everywhere show like, yes, we want you, and we're going to listen to what you say and we're going to try it. And if it doesn't work, we'll talk about it. And if it does work, great, you get all the credit for it, right? So I think it's getting them involved, but also validating like your ideas and your thoughts about what church can be and what church should be. Those truly matter to us. Yeah.
Now I got a couple more questions.
A couple more?
Yeah.
These are bonus, are these like mystery bonus questions?
Yeah.
Let's go.
Since you talked about Taylor Swift so much in your sermons,
I knew this was going to be a topic. All right.
What's your favorite Taylor Swift song and why?
This one changes for me. Like, if it's during the winter, like Evermore and Folklore, like those songs absolutely bang for me because it's like it matches what I feel like it is like outside. But I can't pick that in, June. That doesn't feel right. So, right now, I actually listened to it on the way to work this morning. Lavender Haze has been one that I keep going back to from her newest album. I just think it's really fun. It's really like, it just has a really good flow to it. So that'd be my favorite right now. But again, if you ask me that question in like a week, it might be different because I just love all of her stuff so much. So Lavender Haze.
You would say you have different eras of Taylor Swift songs.
Well done. That was good.
All right. What are some ways AI can benefit the church, and what are the dangers it might bring?
Great question. I think AI can be a really helpful tool for like the beginning of ideas, right? So I think to use ChatGPT or some AI feature to say like, give me a couple of different name ideas for a ministry that does X, Y, Z, right? And like parsing through those and not deciding like, I'm going to pick one of these, but oh wow, like that name was really helpful. Like part of that name was really helpful, but what if I thought of an original idea that was used with that? So I think AI can be really helpful with like the beginning of thought. I think we have to be really careful. Like for myself, I could every single week be like, hey, I want to write a sermon that does this, 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 and this. Write it for me and then just print it off. But like, and I've tried that before. I haven't ever done it, but I've always been interested to see like, how good is this sermon going to be? And I think like the sermons that I've read before where I've asked it that prompt, they never go quite deep enough and they don't get like personal enough for what a sermon or a message should be. And I think that highlights like where it can be really damaging. Is there's such a human component to our faith of like how we relate to one another and how we engage in conversation with one another. And AI, as smart as it is, I don't think it's developed that human piece of things yet. And like, I do think there's so much value in the ideas of people coming together, like us as a staff. Like when we sit around at this very table on Mondays and we talk about ideas that we have for church, sometimes we like sit around and somebody will plug something into ChatGPT that we're talking about. And we never go with that idea exactly as is, but it sometimes can be really helpful to get a conversation started so that we're not starting at like, you know, just like the very beginning, but we have an idea and then we're able to roll with it and develop it.
How can faith and technology coexist without losing what makes the church unique?
Ask that one again. Hold on, I need to.
How can faith and technology coexist without losing what makes the church unique?
So, all right, story time. During COVID, whenever we all couldn't come to church, every church, or at least most churches, did the exact same thing where we all started using live streaming technology. And on Sundays, we would like air worship and people could watch it in their homes. And I think at the time when we first started doing that, that was a really awesome tool because it helped us all know like we're watching this at the same time and we're all in worship together and this is great. I think over time, what ended up happening is, yes, we were all coming to church together, but we saw church more as like entertainment on like our television screens of like, oh, I'm going to watch this for an hour. Like I would watch a show on Netflix or like on HBO Max. But what we're missing within that component is like when we greet one another and we shake hands and we check in with one another, the conversations that happen in church before worship gets started or after church starts. And even with like Bible studies in Zoom have been a really helpful tool. We even still do that at Mosaic today, where we obviously have like a very small office space. And so we have to get creative about the ways that we meet. So sometimes Zoom's a great option. But I think there are conversations that can start in person that can't happen online in the way in which God wants those conversations to happen, where we can be like really real and vulnerable with one another. So I think technology like has a really important role to play. Like I think about our website, our church website, we call that like the front door of Mosaic. So if somebody's going to learn more about Mosaic before they ever step into our doors, the website and our social media page, like using technology to teach people about who we are before they're here, that's a really essential tool for us. It's one of the most important things that we do. But the hope for technology in that regard is that it will bring them to the church in some way. And that doesn't mean in worship, but it means it could be like student ministries and being involved with our students on Sunday afternoons. It could be going and serving with our Helping Hands team on Tuesdays and Saturdays. It could be coming to prayer group meeting on Wednesdays here in our office. But using technologies as a way to create a pathway for somebody to engage here in person and in real life is really good. And then I also think, like lastly, I know I'm kind of going all over the board with this answer, but there are people who have been at Mosaic for a while and then have moved somewhere else. And sometimes that's like several states away. And I think technology can be really helpful for them as far as how we show our worship, even this podcast medium that we use. People can feel like they're staying connected to the church without necessarily being here. But my hope is that, yes, you can stay connected with us, but my hope is that if you move to a new place, you have found a new church to go to in person to be a part of that community. So technology, I don't think, can replace that authentic community that we talk so much about, but it can help pave the pathway for somebody to get into that authentic community that we love so much. Those are all the questions you got?
That's all the questions I got.
I'm really going to chew on that Taylor Swift question for a while. Because, I mean, I feel like even later today, I'm like, man, I should have said this song, you know? Can I change my answer?
Yeah, sure.
Is that okay? Cruel Summer right now, that's like a good summer jam. Like, that was when we saw the Eras tour. That was probably my favorite song that she did. So I think Cruel Summer or Lavender Haze right now would be my pick. I'm trying to think of do you listen to Taylor Swift?
No, not at all.
Okay. I was going to ask you what your favorite era of Taylor Swift was, but what's your favorite artist? Who's your favorite singer?
I don't know. I don't really listen to music that much.
We got to get you on music, Bryce. I'm gonna send you a Taylor Swift podcast or a playlist of like all the best songs, so you can finally start getting hugged and stop making fun of me about it. Bryce, what a joy it's been to sit down and talk with you. I'm so thankful that you're here and for all the ways in which you, even in your young age, serve Mosaic and are so essential to the things in which we do here. And I just appreciate you coming on the podcast. So, friends, that's going to be our time for today. And so we want to thank you for joining us for this episode of Faith in Pieces, a podcast by Mosaic United Methodist Church. Today, as always, we've wrestled with some tough questions. We've asked some hard questions, and hopefully we've made space for us to be honest and to be curious together. I just want to remind you that curiosity is never a threat to our faith. It is a sign of it. So keep being curious, keep asking questions. If you have questions that you'd like us to answer on the podcast, we would love to know what those questions are. All you got to do is send an email to faithinpieces@mosaicumctx.org, and we'll hopefully be able to talk about it here in the next couple of weeks as we wrap up the season of Asking for a Friend. As always, subscribe, share, and connect with us at mosaicumctx.org, and we will see you next week. Thanks, Bryce.
You're welcome.
See ya.